Anecdotes for success. Level up with truth, meaning, trade-offs, perspective.
All right, welcome everybody. Tonight we have Anthony Bailey. I'm excited for you to meet another one of my Twitter friends. I met Anthony about 1.5 years ago, and what's great along this journey is I think we both pivoted a little bit since we first met each other. Anthony, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
And tell us a little bit about yourself. Get started with your history or where you want to go, and then I'm sure Matt's going to ask 522 questions tonight.
Right. So I'm from upstate New York, which is not really upstate, but for everybody who doesn't know, people who live in New York City consider everything above Yonkers to be upstate New York. So I'm about an hour northwest, right on like the New York and New Jersey borderline. So it takes me about an hour to get to New York City. But for some people consider it upstate. So that's where I grew up. That's where I currently live right now. So I guess I'll just take you from when I graduated high school. Did 2 years of community college, went that route because just learning from other people's mistakes and just being a financially responsible person was just kind of weighing out my options at that point. And I played college basketball there as well. So I kind of knew the coach a little bit, had some mutual interest, and just at the end of the day decided that was the best route for me to go. 20 minutes from my house, so couldn't really beat it. So I went there for 2 years, Orange County Community College. After that, I transferred to a school in Northwest Jersey, out towards like the Pennsylvania borderline, called Centenary University. It's a Division III school out there. So that's where I finished up. I got my degree in business administration with a focus in sports management. When I was there, I did internships with 3 different teams, right? I did one with the Red Bulls, the New York Red Bulls, the soccer team, the Jets. That lasted about 2 weeks. And then I did a student sales program with the Brooklyn Nets. So that was pretty cool. Learned some sales stuff. But ultimately, when I graduated, I decided that the sports world wasn't for me. It just, I'm a person that goes with my gut feeling. And I had a couple offers to go some places, but it just wasn't for me. Just we'll leave it at that. So I ended up getting a job as a management trainee with Enterprise Rent-A-Car. So I did that for 2 years. Pretty tough job. Teaches you a lot about the management program, how to, be a people person, good customer service. You get tremendous sales skills. So while it was a challenging job, it really did teach me a lot about humans in general and just like hard work in general. So I definitely appreciated my time there. But after 2 years, I realized I don't know if I want to stay in the corporate world. So then from there, I didn't move, excuse me. I changed jobs. I had an opportunity at New York Military Academy. So as a counselor and a basketball coach. So pivoted over there, did that for 1.5 years. And then, the whole COVID thing happened, and then they made some budget cuts. So my job got clipped. So I went from there. And now my father has a painting contracting business. He's had it for like 30 years. So kind of just in between stuff right now. We're helping him run that business. We've been actually super busy, believe it or not, due to this entire situation, because a lot of people have, started these at-home projects and realized they bit off more than they could chew. So we've been getting a lot of phone calls. So it's a good problem to have, right? But that's currently where I'm at right now. I also play semi-pro basketball in North Jersey. So that's like my hobby, and my true passion is basketball. But yeah, that's where I'm currently at.
Well, Anthony,
I got to interrupt quick.
Go ahead.
When you say upstate, we're like upstate, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys are the real upstate, and I've been up where you guys are multiple times actually, which is funny. So like you guys are the actual upstate New York. I am not upstate. I would always have arguments with my teammates and be like, "Yo, I live an hour away from you. Like, have you ever been to Buffalo? That's 6 hours away."
And I know I'm going to let you go, Matt, because I know where you're going with this.
Right. It's just It's funny, Anthony. We do have it's one of the best parts about not talking too much beforehand, because you're saying all this stuff, and I'm like, I feel like Paul set me up at here, because you and I have a lot in common. Yeah, little did you know, right, Paul? What a shock. But first of all, I went to 2 years of community college, Corning here.
Yep.
Then I went and got my degree in sports management from Cortland. Basketball, absolutely my passion growing up, and I'm gonna have to I'll have to look you up and now after this, and
tell them about the time you dunked. Okay, we've already heard that. Keep going.
Which time, Paul? Which time? But no, it's just funny, and then to hear about your internships, and that was the route I traveled, when I was out of college and that kind of thing. And well, you said you did 2 weeks with the Jets, which isn't that a full season with the Jets from what I can tell, 2 weeks. But
pretty much.
But I couldn't help that one. But no, that's cool. Like I got into minor league sports and spent time in that, and kind of came through. This isn't about me, but we have a very similar path. So that's really cool, and it's a lot of work, right? Like you said, there's that career is a time commitment for sure. So I understand.
Yeah, the sports management life, man, let me tell you, you really got to be built for it, and you really have to just like truly love the industry, because with that industry, and I'm sure like there is no such thing as a work-life balance. Like that is your life. If you don't like your job or career, whatever you want to call it, you're going to be miserable most of the time. However, if it's something truly you're passionate about, you're going to love it. Like I have a buddy, he works for the Portland Trail Blazers. He's actually originally from Nigeria. He moved to the States, to Jersey, and now he's killing it with them. Like he's absolutely killing it, and he loves it. So
right.
You could see the two different routes. Someone like myself, I couldn't find the passion for it. So I decided to pivot and go in a different direction. So, I mean, the industry, it is what it is. It's long hours, but if you're committed, you could do it. It just wasn't for me.
No, I understand. I did it for quite a few years, honestly. And it had its ups and downs, and the ups were I loved it. It was sports and all the things that I'm sure you enjoyed about it, and a lot of people do. The downs were I called a lifestyle industry. Like it is your life. There's no, it's 5 o'clock, I'll see you tomorrow. Oh, it's Friday, I'll see you on Monday. That industry does not work like that. I used to tell people who I'd interview, I'd say, here's how it works. When other people work, we work. When other people play, we work. Like that's it, right? And that, if you like you said, if you love it, great. But there's no balance to it, and that has its downside. So that's interesting. You went through that too.
Yeah, exactly. Like, one time we had a game on a Saturday night. It's a 7:30 at night game. We have to be at the stadium at 8 a.m.
Yep.
And we don't get to leave till the game is over. We were putting in 12 to 14-hour days. Like I said, it's something you truly have to love. Wasn't for me. I love the coaching side of things, right? And being involved in the sports, where sports management is more the business side of things, the operations department, the sales department. So that was something I didn't know prior to getting into the sportsman. I didn't really know what it was, to be honest.
Me either.
You see the word sports and you're just like, all right, well, I like sports. And then you get into it, but it's cool, right? I learned so much with my experience. My professor in college worked for the New Jersey Devils for 20 plus years.
Oh, cool.
He taught me a lot about the industry. And you learn all the logistics of it. Like, for example, the year the 76ers set the worst NBA record as far as winning percentage, I think they were like 10-72. That same season, they had the best attendance out of everybody in the NBA. And I was like, I was mind blown by that, because I'm like, how is that possible? They were trash. But what they did is they made the event fun, right? So they made, they had T-shirts during timeouts. They had performers at the show. So they made the event fun, even if the team was losing. So we just learned stuff like that, like how to make, really put on good events and everything, learning the business side of everything. It was really, really cool as far as that stuff goes.
So at the end of the day, it's basically entertainment industry.
100%.
Oh, for sure. 100%. 1,000%.
But isn't it kind of funny? as an outsider, well, as a teacher that hasn't been involved in it, shouldn't it be sports entertainment instead of sports management? Do you
There-
think you get misled when you're younger? That's all I'm saying.
I mean, yeah, I think so. I think that would probably be the appropriate name for it, because each one of these industries, whether it's the NFL, the MLB, the NHL, they are entertainment first. Their job is to put people in these seats, because if you can't put people in these seats, then you can't pay the people to run the building. You can't pay these players to put on the performance. So at the end of the day, it really is entertainment first. Their job is and responsibility is to make sure that there is people in these seats.
Yeah, I think, Paul, that there's somewhat of a, and I'd have to check, but there's some places that are kind of skewing a little sports and entertainment, combining a bit. But as Anthony said, I mean, at the end of the day, it's all entertainment. I don't, whether you're paying Tom Cruise or Tom Brady, you're paying an entertainer, right? I mean, and one might be scripted and the other isn't, but at the end of the day, it's putting butts in seats and putting people in front of televisions, which is where the money's at. So, although I never felt or quite honestly thought about, am I getting kind of tricked into this? To me, it was one of the best business experiences I ever had, because one of the things, especially about minor league sports, and maybe Anthony, your time with the Red Bulls, although that is pretty high level, I was in like minor league sports, like low level. There's no
Yeah,
TV
yeah.
revenue.
No.
Sponsorship dollars are really tough to come
What were you
by.
doing? Minor
Like,
league baseball?
yeah, I did minor league baseball at
Yep.
the beginning, and then I got into minor league hockey. And there it was one of the best things I ever did from a future entrepreneur, because what I learned? You got to hustle. You know what I mean? Like, if you work for a Fortune 5, if I work for JP Morgan and I'm 22, I just think the money comes in, right? What do I got to do? It's just the way it works. The money comes in, I do this, we do that, and here we are. When you work in minor league sports, you get an entirely different, you're trying to make payroll every week. It's a different world, and that creates a hustle in you, that
Yeah.
really has helped me my entire life. Like, I've run teams, and when you're like, how am I going to pay people this week? You think differently than maybe if you're in the NBA or the NHL or JP Morgan or AT&T, or pick a giant organization. And those were some of the best things that ever happened to me as a future business person. I didn't know it at the time. I just knew I was scared and in trouble. But now I look back and I go, man, those things taught me a lot.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, definitely when you're in charge of anything, you see everything through a different type of lens, right? Like when you're the bottom level employee, you're like, listen, I'm just here to do my job, bare minimum. I'm trying to get my paycheck at the end of the week. And that's what it is. When you're the number one or number two in an organization or a company or whatever the case may be, like, you have a different scope of everything, right? You're thinking, how am I going to manage these people? How am I going to make payroll? How am I going to bring in this revenue? And that's something I learned a lot when I was working at the rental car business, right? Like, because outside looking in, you're just like, yeah, it's easy renting cars. And it's like, it's a whole sales game. It's a whole, keeping cars on the road, keeping these customers happy. Just the hustle. And it definitely helped me a lot with where I am today, especially now that, like, I'm taking on more of an entrepreneurial role, because I'm working on some of these projects as I mentioned to you guys pre-show. And when you're in charge or at a higher level, you literally just have a different type of scope.
Yeah, you're 100% right. So, back what you're saying, tell us a little bit about, so what are you trying to do now? You talk about your entrepreneurial kind of goals, if you will. What's going on? What do you have in mind? What are you trying to do?
Right. So when me and Paul initially connected on Twitter, what was that? What did we say? A year and a half ago?
Yeah.
So I
Yep.
was like, I was kind of at this point where I wanted, as you're in a lull in your life and you kind of want to make a pivot, a change, whatever, just get out of the rut. So I was buying all these books, all these different courses, just trying to learn different things, right? So I bought a couple different courses on Twitter of just, how to Dominate Twitter was the one book, right? It's by this guy Brian Sharp. He also goes by Hotep Jesus on the Twitter sphere. It's called Dominate Twitter, right? And it was basically how to grow a Twitter following, how to create a niche, blah blah blah. Basically just how to create somewhat of a business using Twitter. So I read the book, awesome book. I also bought another course by this guy Chris Johnson. It was the same thing, how to grow on Twitter. But Chris is more in the money Twitter space. So I initially connected with him. He gave me a little bit of advice. I was like, oh, I have this idea on student loans. Because I paid my student loans off in a year. I didn't have a tremendous amount. I had about I think in total, I had 32,000 that I paid for college, right? I paid half of that up front because like you said, I was hustling in the summer. I wasn't out chilling, partying, all that. I was working like 6 days a week on top of having these internships and stuff. Like I was really grinding just because I didn't want to be in debt. I didn't want to have to take out crazy student loans. However, I did have to take out 17,000 worth of student loans. So that was basically my goal when I graduated college was to be out of debt within the first year. Looking back on it, I probably should have invested it, like bought a rental property or whatever, but at that point, my mind wasn't right, man. I'm still a young kid. I was like 23 years old. But that was my goal. I did it. I paid off 17 grand in a year.
Anthony, why was that so important to you?
Just seeing people get caught in that cycle, right? Like when I went to seminary, what are those people called to help you set up your classes? Like just the administrator,
mission advisors.
Yeah, the advisor. There we go.
Yeah.
I couldn't think it was on the tip of my tongue. The advisor, right? She was like, "Yeah, I went here," and literally the second thing she said to me was like, "Yep." And she had this like upset look on her face. She was like, "Yeah, I'm still paying off these student loans," and I was just like, "I'm like, yeah, that's not gonna be me because it's just not gonna be me." But just seeing like some family members and some friends, like you just always hear about it, right? And that's something that's always pushed, go to college, get a good job. But it never made sense to me. It's like, why do we have to take out all this debt to better ourselves, right? And I just didn't want to get caught in that trap, the interest rate trap. I just didn't want to get caught up in that. So it was basically my goal to get out of debt at a young age so then I could make better moves with my money in the future.
Okay. Can I ask you a question before Matt starts asking more? I'm just picking Matt. I tell I have an honors program I teach at, and I recruit kids from all different school districts, and a lot of them, they just feel like they have to go to a four-year school. They have to do this. And I start trying to show them all the money they're going to be spending, and it doesn't matter. They're just pressured. So let me ask you this. Is it crazy for me to try to recommend to a high school kid to take a year off of high school, make about 10 grand, invest it, and then go back to school?
No, absolutely not. In fact, that's what I would recommend doing. I guess there's not one correct answer, right? There's
100%.
There's 7 billion different people in this world. We have 7 billion different lifestyles. There's not one size fit all answer, right? But I think there's certain avenues that you could come across and be like, maybe this is the avenue for me, or maybe this is the avenue for me, right? If your parents are going to pay for your college, you might as well go, do something you want to do. But if you're in a situation where you're not, financially wealthy or whatever the case may be, you might want to look at a different route, right? I tell kids nowadays, I'm like, dude, there's never been a higher demand for trades, right? Electricians are like at an all-time high, plumbers at an all-time high. And a lot of the time, these people are making a lot more money than people who went to college and got a psychology degree or a liberal arts degree. It's like, buddy, why are you taking $47,000 of student loans out to get a job that you didn't need a degree for? And I think you're an anomaly when it comes to teachers, because most teachers are pressuring these kids because they were pressured to do so, right? And that's a whole different conversation on the public school system.
Yes, it is.
And the direction that's going. But a lot of these kids just don't know better, right? Think about when you were 16, 17. I was an idiot at that age, right? Like
100%. So really, that's why I love your stories, both of you. You do community college, and it doesn't set you back at all. If anything, it saves you.
Oh, for sure.
You figure out what you want to do, and you can still live your life, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing too. I had a million different things in my mind. Do I want to be an accountant? Do I want to be a gym teacher? Do I want to be a biology teacher? Um, and I was pretty much just like, didn't know what I want to do. And I was like, well, I don't want to go somewhere where I'm not gonna save money. So I'm like, let me just go to the community college route. And it's upsetting too, right? Because a lot of these kids in high school have the party mindset. I want to get away and just party. Like I was the same way. When I seen all my friends going to Cortland, Binghamton, Oneonta, I'm jealous. Like I'm not gonna sit here and lie. I was jealous. I'm like, these kids are going away from home, they're gonna have a good time. I'm sitting at home just going to community college. All my friends are away at school. I don't even have friends back home now. So it was definitely interesting. But at the end of the day, I'm happy I made that decision because it put me financially a couple steps ahead where I still have a bunch of friends now, we're 27 years old and they're still struggling.
Was it a personal decisions? Did you have pressure from your family either way, where to go? Because I
I
know a
mean,
lot of times students, it's almost like parents want them to go. They want to share the experience with their kids.
yeah, for sure, right? And that's what I touched on earlier. Everybody's story is different. My parents were definitely in my ear about community college because I was looking at going to a couple different places that weren't like too expensive, but my mom and dad were always just like, I'm gonna just think about the tuition. Think about this. Like we're not putting you through. Like think it's just so I had them in my ear. But I've definitely always been cognizant on that decision. Just because I didn't grow up super wealthy. So like when I was 16 years old, I had to get a job. My dad was like, go get a job. Like I bought my first car. My first car was a 1999 Ford Ranger with 204,000 miles. I bought it for $600. It was a beater. Like, so I know what a dollar is worth. I was paying my car insurance every month. So I think a lot of kids just don't have experiences like that because if you're coming from a wealthier family, some parents don't make their kids get a job. Some kids' first job is when they graduate college and they're 22 years old, where I was helping my dad paint houses at like 14 years old. Like I'm just a blue collar kid. So it's different for everybody, but I was always definitely financially, I always had that financial thing in my subconscious. So at the end of the day, I was just like, let me make this decision, and it turned out pretty well.
It's awesome. It's like you said earlier, everybody's story is different. You said some people have college paid for, some people take this route, some people have a scholarship route. But I think the important thing is whatever you do in life, Matt talks about it a lot. You have to have skin in the game.
Yeah, for sure. And just to circle back to like the entrepreneur stuff. So I started my website called financiallight.co. And that's basically, student loan based and like side hustle based, basically helping young kids make these financial decisions that are going to help them get out of debt quickly. Bad debt, because not all debt is bad. I'm sure with the real estate background, you're very familiar with that. But
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of understanding the difference between good debt and bad debt because it's a very important thing. But we could talk for hours. Well, probably not. It only takes a minute to figure that out. But what I wanted to ask is, you said student loan based, basically education. It sounds like. What do you mean by that? What you mean after you get your student loans, before you get your student loans? Like what do you mean by that?
So a little bit of both. I would say primarily afterwards. I wrote I wrote a course called the Student Debt Blueprint. Basically, it's not a one size fit all. It basically shows the way I did it and how I got a student out of my debt within a year. But I feel like the principles and methods that I use could help a lot of people, right? So in that, I talk about, really diving into how much debt you have in the first place, because I'm sure you guys know, you ask these people and they don't even want to look at the number because it's so large. I've tried to help friends before. They're like, oh, how did you do it? Like how, what should I do? And I'm like, well, how much do you owe? And they're like, I think like 46,000. I'm like, bro, how do you not even know? So
They're scared, right?
Exactly. It's like, you don't want to look at the problem. You hope the problem goes away.
Yeah, it's true though. It's very true.
Yeah. So my step one in that is like diving into your situation.
Okay.
Looking at, how many different loans you have. If you have like 5 different private loans, you should probably try to consolidate them at a low interest rate.
Okay.
So basically just like diving into interest rates, stuff like that. The boring stuff that nobody wants to do, but is important.
Huge, immensely important, right? I mean, if you're cutting percentage points off an interest rate by consolidating or whatever strategies exist out there. People need to understand that you're not talking small dollars, especially over time, right? You're talking thousands, depending on the size of the loan and the number of years, but you're talking thousands and thousands, tens of thousands in many cases, right? I mean, it's a big deal. And I think the point you're making, which Anthony, I think is awesome and people need to hear, is step one, take the blinders off. You're not alone. You're in the same position so many people are. Don't be embarrassed. Don't, this isn't my business. It's just me speaking off the top of my head. Like, tackle it, hit it head on. You're going to take it in the face at first. You're going to be like, oh my God, what is going on here? But my God, it's so worth it that tackle it head on, right? I mean, am I wrong here?
No, 100%. Like I said before, I had 17 grand worth of loans, and that made me feel anxious a lot of the time, right? Even though relatively it's not a huge number. Some people have 6 figures worth.
Yep.
But it definitely, I was like, damn, man, like I just want to get rid of this. Like I don't want this hanging over my head. So that's my step one, diving into your situation. Step two is kind of just, lifestyle choices. How are you living, right? Is your rent $1 million a month and you're basically not being able to, pay your bills or whatever? Are you stupid with your money? Do you know how to budget? Do you know how to put your money in the correct places? Do you know how to invest? So basically just looking at those things, right? Like financial education 101. I always recommend people that their mortgage or rent shouldn't be more than 25% of, their monthly income. So if their monthly income is $2,000, their rent should be more than $500. I know that's not realistic, but that's just an example. Simple math, right?
It should be realistic. I had a grandfather that was a real estate agent. When my wife and I bought our first house, that's the formula he gave us. And then I look around and people don't follow that formula, Anthony.
Yeah, listen, I mean, the real estate and the country in general has been crazy, from a monetary standpoint. But that's the advice I give. 50% of your income should go towards, your living expenses, car, house, whatever you got to do. 30% that should go towards your savings, debt, or investing. So if you have, bad debt, that credit card debt, all that stuff you want to get rid of, you should tackle that first. Be investing in something, compound interest. I basically touch on that a little bit and how that could change your life. That's something I wish I did with the 17 grand. I wish I bought a rental property, but I didn't. It's a learning lesson, whatever. But I don't have that bad debt hanging over my head anymore. And then I recommend the 20%. You got to have fun in life, right? Spend it on whatever you want. So that's what I recommend for that. And then step 3 of my course is how to increase your income, right? Not everybody is making $1 million a year. Not everybody's making 6 figures. Some people struggle, right? So if you are struggling, let's look at ways where you could, increase your income. I talk about side hustles a lot. My favorite side hustle ever is flipping, retail arbitrage. And not even retail arbitrage. It could be flipping from garage sales. Because that's a real thing. You can make a pretty penny doing that type of stuff. Now there's different courses and stuff out there. My man, Coach Joe Hart, he's on Twitter. If you want to check him out, he runs this program called Products for Profit, where basically he shows people how they can go into big retail stores like Walmart, Target, spaces like that. They can find items in the store and then resell them on eBay or Amazon and make income that way. And he's helped multiple people make 6 figures just from reselling items, just from knowing the game, right? And that's crazy. And it's something anybody could do. You don't have to have specific skills. All you have to know is, hey, this video game is $20 on Walmart. It sells on Amazon for $40. Go buy it here and then resell it online. Boom. You just made $20. You sell 100 of them. Boom. You made $2,000.
Isn't it amazing that people, I think, I've heard a stat, and I keep telling Matt every week when I see him, 50% of money is going through Amazon, and I believe it.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. And I forget what the stat is, but I think it's over 50% of Amazon sellers are resellers. So it's not like it's the Amazon factory is just bringing these, it's people doing Amazon FBA. It's regular people like ourselves who are playing the game and they're killing it.
And that's the next thing. It blows my mind that people go to Amazon thinking they're getting deals. Most of the time, they're paying top dollar compared to what they could pay if they just did their research, right?
So 10 years ago, it was the opposite, right? You could get things cheaper
Right, right.
online and it was more in the store. Now it's flip-flopped because everybody, especially with the pandemic, everybody wants to just stay at home and you can press a couple buttons, you have it on auto order, and next thing you know, you got toilet paper at your doorstep the next day.
Hey,
It's
Anthony,
amazing.
why are you so passionate? Where'd this come from? Why are you so passionate about this?
I think one, just like how I grew up, like I said, I didn't grow up poor. I didn't grow up wealthy. I'm just a middle class kid, blue collar kid. I know what hard work is. My first job that wasn't with my father, I worked at an apple orchard for $6.25 an hour in the parking lot, directing traffic. Um, so at the end of the weekend, I would have like $102 or whatever the math was.
Right.
Like, so, and then I had a good paying job my first year out of college. So I basically have seen it all from a monetary perspective. I'm not a millionaire yet, but I'm not to that point yet, but I've always just had that mindset, right? Because I had to, especially in high school. Like I said, I was paying my own bills. So I had to figure out ways how to hustle. I would go to the pizzeria or the Chinese food spot. If something cost $5, I would talk the guy to selling it to me for $3.50 because that's all I had. Like just stuff like that. I've always
Right.
how to hustle. And then I know what it's like to struggle with money. So if I can give a bit of my knowledge out there and help young people who are struggling, I think that would be awesome because the student debt dilemma is a real thing, man. Like a lot of people are going to school and they're graduating and they're coming back home and they're not able to find that high paying job, right? There are people with bachelor's degrees who have to deliver pizza because they can't find a corporate job that pays six figures, or they're back home mowing lawns or just doing stuff that doesn't require a degree, except now they have this debt burden on their back. And I know this administration put a little bit of a pause on the student debt thing, but I think in a couple months that's being released, and the banks are going to want their money. So if I could put that knowledge out there just to help some individuals, I just think that would be awesome to give back.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and it's a big challenge for a lot of people, and it's not even just a person who went and got a degree and then can't get a job in their industry. There's people who got their degree, go get a job in their industry, and then they have this debt sitting over them that's still sucking them dry, right? I mean,
Yeah.
there's plenty. I know plenty of them. I'm sure you do as well. I'm sure both you do as well. So there's that as well. So I look at that and I go, well, then you got to make the decision: is my job worth the degree? And like you said, there's a demand for plumbers and welders and a number of things. Like, so we're in this weird time versus when I grew up where it was go to college, and no one ever had the other conversation, which I'm glad
Right.
we're having the other conversation. It's very, very important, but you got people who are in the situation now, and step one is get out of it. But do you ever recommend to anyone else, hey, look, don't try to get out of the college debt right away. Instead, use the money you have to invest or do something else in order to, basically jump the interest rate kind of issue. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. Now that I have more of an understanding of it, I tell people that I'm like, yo, that's why it's so important to really dive into the interest rates and dive into the loans that you have. Because if you have a high interest loan, you need to refinance or you need to attack that loan first. If your interest rate is like 2%, it's silly to pay all that off. Take that money, throw it into some stocks or crypto, or if you can get into real estate, something that's cash flowing. So if you're buying stocks that pay dividends, that compound interest, then you could use that money you invested to pay off your debts, right? And I wish I had knew that earlier. But yeah, exactly. Like I said, I was a young kid. But yeah, I definitely tell people that route now, because I had a buddy. He's like, I have enough money. Should I pay them off? I'm like, nah, bro, don't pay them off. Like, you have low interest rate. Like, invest it. You know, same thing. That's why people get into the arguments over mortgages too, right? It's like, oh, should I pay off my mortgage? And it's like, I mean, it depends what you want to do, right? Like, you could pay off your mortgage, but then there's the opportunity cost on these stocks and these, you know, you could take equity out of your house and buy a different rental property, and then your house pays for itself. So it's like,
there's a million ways.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a game, but there's a reason why they don't teach it to you in schools.
They really don't. I mean, right now, like in theory, if you want a car, get a car. The interest rates are so low, you don't have to necessarily pay cash for it, right?
Right. And
as long as it fits your flow, take the money and invest it still, and do what you want to do.
Right, exactly. And that's why I preach, like, you know, you got to figure out your own situation. Nobody's exactly the same. I can't give an absolute answer for everybody. That's why I can give you the principles, and you can do your own research and figure out what's best for you and your situation. And I just think it's important for people to educate themselves, right? Like, you don't need to go to college to be super successful or any of this stuff. Like, you could watch 8 hours of YouTube videos and learn a brand new skill. Like, these courses that I bought on Twitter, they're the reason why I've had the success, right? I think I bought this guy's course for like $50. Like, it's $50. Yeah, it's a lot of money, but I spent $17,000 on college. I could spend $50 on something that I think is going to help me out in my future, right? I've spent $50 on alcohol, on worse things. Like, you know what I'm saying? I've spent $50 on a t-shirt, not on a t-shirt, but like clothes, like stuff that doesn't matter. And then I'm all about like networking and hustling, right? So that book that I bought by Brian Sharp, Hotel Jesus, that turned into a business partnership with him. So now we're working on this website called Men of Order. So it's basically a blog based around I guess you could say masculinity, but basically just, you know, what we feel like a man should be and what he should take care of, especially nowadays, because men are being attacked for just existing. So the core focus on that website is, you know, we talk about pop culture, what's trending and everything right now. We talk about health, mental health specifically, because like I said, men are under attack. We talk about sports, because let's be real, most men are into the sports scene, and sports can teach you a lot about life, not just, you know, your favorite player, but, you know, how to overcome adversity, stuff like that. And then I'm drawing a blank on our last one. Oh, money, because obviously you need money to live, and that's super important. And if you take care of that, you could take a lot of other things without the stress.
Anthony, did I see him on Joe Rogan once?
Yes.
I thought so. So. Okay.
So
cool.
You're missing out. Twitter world.
You gotta tune in every Tuesday night. We tap in and we have conversations, and we just open the floor to, you know, whoever's listening in. We get a lot of different opinions, a lot of different personalities, and it's pretty cool. But yeah, that $50 book I bought turned into a business partnership. And that's what I mentioned before. This is the new endeavor that I'm on. But yeah, this is like, it's at its infancy. I think we launched, I want to say, just over 6 months ago, and we have over 20 writers. So it's just been absolutely crazy. Like, the growth. I think 2 months ago we had 3,000 total users on the website. This past month we had almost 5,500.
So, like, I was going to ask you what kind of traction you're getting. Sounds like you're getting very good traction.
Yeah, we've posted an article. We haven't missed one day since we launched. So it's a media company, we like to call it, but it's at its infancy. I think, you know, 2 to 3 years down the line, you're going to start hearing it in a prominent perspective, and then 3 to 5 years, it's going to be something. I truly am confident in that, especially with the team we have.
And your target market your audience is young men.
Yeah, I mean, our target market, we like to say, is men 25 to 35. That's sort of that young men. But let's be real. Even when you're an older man, you still have that youthful spirit and that youthful thought process. Nobody wants to get old. So basically,
I agree with that.
Basically, just men in general. But
cool.
Yeah, our target market would be 25 to 35. We like to say.
Really interesting. I gotta check that out. That's pretty cool. I definitely want to check that. I remember him on Joe Rogan, and it was very interesting. But that was a little while ago, if my memory serves me. So
Yeah, that was probably 2 years ago, maybe
that's what
even
I was
over
gonna
2
get
years ago.
before COVID. I think probably a couple of years
Yeah,
ago.
it's funny. I connected with him before he was even on Joe Rogan. Like I
Yeah.
connected with him when he had like right now he has like 200,000 followers on Twitter, like just crushing it. I connected with him when he had like 6,000. I just liked like
Mm.
the way he was tweeting, his
Right.
thought process, saw
Right.
a
Right.
lot of commonalities, and then he's put his book out, bought his book, and kind of just tapped in with
Hmm.
him, and it led to a business partnership. So we got a lot of good things in the works.
Really cool. Well, that's one of the, Paul's always telling me about as we talked before we got on the benefits of Twitter, and I usually only saw the negatives of it. So it's just another example of that, how unique that is.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely envious of you a little bit for not being on Twitter because you have you have your peace of mind. You have
Yeah.
your peace of mind, and let's be real, it's easy to be brainwashed with these social medias, right? Especially now that they're censoring a lot of stuff.
Hmm.
So depending on what type of person you are, if you're easily influenced, it could definitely take a toll on you. There's obviously been studies out there about how it affects dopamine levels and how it
Yep.
can how social media can actually lead to anxiety and depression, but that's a conversation that a lot of people don't want to talk about. They'd rather just stay on social media and give into that problem a bit more, which stinks. Like you said, though, there's good and bads to, excuse me, there's pros and cons to everything. So but yeah, some days I'll literally just delete the app from my phone and just not even be able to open it because I needed clarity or whatever. So definitely jealous of you a little bit, but unfortunately with our business, I have to be on Twitter.
Well, it's funny you say that because I've had some conversations with people recently, and they said, well, obviously, you have to be on social media, and that message I think is true, I guess, for a lot of people. I mean, it's not for me, thankfully, I guess, or not. Maybe I could be more successful or do more if I was, which would be, great, I guess. But it's interesting that we are in an age where that is such a important part of your ability to succeed, right? And not everyone's, but a lot of people. So you feel the need to be on it, or else you're missing out. And I don't mean missing out like, oh, I'm not going to get to see who's eating chicken parm for dinner tonight. That the food picture
Right.
stuff. I mean business opportunities, networking opportunities, some of these things. But it's so there's that, and I think it's real. I don't disagree with that. I mean, there's certainly something there, but in another sense, what's the cost of it, right? And you talk about getting off of it and that kind of thing. And we don't have to get into this now, but I think it's an unbelievably interesting conversation because I think we're going to look back on this time like people look back on smoking cigarettes in the 1950s, like everyone did it. And now you look back and you go, what are they, idiots? What didn't they know what they're doing to each other, to themselves? And I think that's where we're going to end up here some way. But it's not because I'm some sort of visionary who sees things that you guys don't. But
Right.
Paul,
All right.
but by any means. But there's certainly something there, and I could go on and on to some degree about the dopamine part and the addictiveness of it, the cancel culture, it goes. I have a feeling, Anthony, you and I see things very similarly. I'm just getting that hunch, but it's definitely an interesting topic. But at the same time, here you are in 2021 and you're trying to expand your network and look for new opportunities, and here's this ready-made thing or things, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, whatever it happens to be, and you can connect with people like Hotep Jesus that you never in a million years could have connected to, and there's that benefit too. So it's a really unique time,
Right. I think
and
it's
we haven't
funny.
figured it out, and we have no idea what's
No,
going on still, right?
we're in the middle of the problem right now, trying to dissect and go from there. It's funny what you
Exactly.
say about like cigarettes, because I have this like, what are you guys, idiots? Like, how did you not know it was bad for you? Doctors were smoking. It was promoted, like it was commercials and everything. I have that exact theory right now about energy drinks and pre-workout, right? I think in about 20 to 30 years, we're going to be like, oh, like, and it's my generation, right? We're gonna be, these guys are idiots. Like, look at all these, because I think these products are gonna hinder health in the future. I truly believe that. But to go back to the social media,
Interesting.
yeah, this is the social media conversation. I think it's all about who you follow, right? If you're following a bunch of negative, toxic people on your timeline and that's all you're seeing, it's inevitable that you're gonna have a similar attitude or a similar outlook. Um, I think it's important to clean up your timeline and filter out the good and the bad people, right? If you're following like 100 motivational people or 100 motivational pages, you're probably going to feel empowered and motivated to achieve some things. If you're following 100 pessimistic people, it's inevitable that you're going to feel pessimistic, right?
That's a great point. In fact, I'm glad you said it because Paul, you've mentioned it multiple times, and so have other guests we've had who said basically say the same thing. Like, well, yeah, you just they kind of like, well, yeah, but you got to follow the right people. And I'm glad you guys say that. I'm glad it's that simple, or at least it's an option, I guess is a better way to put it. Because obviously I missed that when I was back on, when I was on it back in the day. But I'm glad that that's a way to approach it, that you guys all keep saying the same thing. Follow the right people, follow the right people, follow the right people.
So I don't want to blow Matt's mind, Anthony, but you can actually turn people's notifications on Twitter too. So you only get the updates from the people you want to follow, but that's going to be a whole nother lesson for Matt. But once you get that timeline going, there's days I turn it off, like you say, but there's days at the end of the night I turn it on and see what the tweets are from the people I'm following, and it's refreshing, it's inspiring, it's insightful. It keeps me going on my target. So I don't know long term if how much time I'm spending is good or bad, but I feel right now it's an okay thing if you monitor it.
Right, for sure. I mean, like when I talk about when I made my pivot into the entrepreneurial space, like when I was on Instagram and Twitter, I was following a lot of BS accounts, celebrities, just like, artists, like just stuff I didn't need to see. And then once I was just like, let me clean this up and make this pivot. It's funny what direction you could go, right? Because I used to follow like all these fantasy football accounts, all these gambling accounts, and like, what do you know? I was gambling all the time. Once I unfollowed all these people, I didn't have the hunch to gamble anymore, right? Like once I started following all these business people, it gave me the motivation and the insight to go in that direction, right? So like I said, it's not a one size fit all for everybody, but I think it definitely helps.
Good point.
Anthony, you're a younger guy than us. I mean, I think we can figure this out. If you could go back and tell your 18-year-old self, like, well, first of all, I don't think you probably, when you're 18, thought you'd be where you are today, correct?
No way.
So,
No.
what would you tell 18-year-olds today? Like, what advice could you give them? Any younger person than you about what to expect in the future?
Right. I think number one, importantly, follow your gut feeling. A lot of times that little voice in your head and in your stomach is telling you, you know what you should do. And I think it's easy for young people to get discouraged from what they want to accomplish, right? Because they got a big problem is parents. They're your parents. They love you. They want to protect you, but a lot of times they're not giving the best advice. That's just, it is what it is. So don't be afraid to, take risks. Go with your gut feeling. You're not going to be able to figure everything out all at once. So just, slow down yourself. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to struggle a little bit. You don't have to be perfect. 18-year-olds, definitely be smart with your money. I wish I could go back and I was always pretty good with my money, but just spending on stupid stuff you don't need, sneakers, clothes, video games and stuff. Learn about investing. Learn about real estate. Real estate changed lives. I'm sure you could attest to that, man. I'm not involved in real estate yet, but I plan to be in the near future. But definitely, educate yourself on that because you're going to be an adult soon and you're going to have to learn about that. You can either learn about it the easy way or learn about it the hard way when those bills smack you in the face. So yeah, that's what I would give advice to 18-year-olds. Don't be, if you're planning on living to 100, you have a long life to live. So take those risks when you're young. Believe in yourself and don't get discouraged.
It's awesome. So, Anthony, we have Financial Light that talks about student debt and consolidating your loans and getting your act together. And we have Men of Order. I'm excited. You got to promise me right now you'll come on a year from now and tell me where you've been. We say that to a lot of people. So
Nah, for sure. I'll definitely come back, man. You were one of the first people I connected with on Twitter. We've always kept a good relationship. We've supported each other. I appreciate you supporting me. It means a lot. Because when we are a big company, I'm telling you, like when you just know things, we are going to be a big company. So I'm going to remember the people who first supported us, right? And when we got a bunch of people who are just hopping on the bandwagon and just are trying to use me at that point, let's be real. I'm going to remember who was there from the beginning. So yeah, I'll definitely hop back on. And hopefully at that time we've made significant progress.
I can't wait. Anthony, thanks so much for coming on tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you
for
very much.
having me. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem.